table, break silence for the upstanding, the Mayor of Torbay and Treasury, Hazel Foster.
So please be seated. So good evening everyone and welcome to this evening's council meeting. First of all, I would like to invite my chaplain, Father Peter March, to please open the meeting with a prayer. This also allows time for personal reflection before we start the business of the meeting. Father Peter.
A prayer of Archbishop William Temple, who was Archbishop of Canterbury in the troubled times for the whole world of the early 1940s. God, the King of righteousness, lead us, we pray, in the ways of justice and of peace. Inspire us to bring down all tyranny and oppression, to gain for every person their due reward and from every person their due service, that each may live for all and all may care for each. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much for those words. So the purpose of this evening's meeting is to deal with a number of major issues for the well-being of Torbay and best interest for the community. My role as Civic Mayor is to ensure that today's agenda is dealt with efficiently and to allow fairness throughout the discussions. As you are aware, the meeting is governed by strict procedures or standing orders. And I may remind members that you ensure your speeches are relevant to the matter under consideration. If members wish to make a point of order or personal explanation, please press your button and stand up, and I will take these after the councillor who is speaking has finished their speech. If members wish to leave the meeting before it is finished, please follow Standing Order A 25.7 and give your apologies before you leave via the clerk. Please note that we are live streaming this meeting this evening on the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. The proceedings of the Council meetings will also be recorded. Please can attendees refrain from watching the live stream as this will cause interference for our viewers. We are not expecting any fire alarm testing today, but in the event of an evacuation, you will hear a recorded message requesting you to evacuate the building. Please leave by the nearest exit and the Riviera Centre staff will assist you. Once outside, please assemble in front of the tennis courts to the seaward side of the building. And can I ask that you all please ensure that your mobile phones and iPads are turned to silent. So apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Madam Mayor, we've had apologies for absence received from Councillor Maddison, and Councillors Nicola and Hutchins are currently absent.
So to group leaders, do you have any further apologies? No, we don't. Thank you. And nobody's advised that they're going to be leaving early. So move on to the minutes. I propose that the minutes of the annual meeting of the Council and adjourned annual meeting of the Council held on the 14th of May be signed as a correct record. So is there a seconder?
I'll second those, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I will now take the vote. All those in favour? Anyone against? No, everybody's in favour, so thank you very much for that. So have members any non-pecuniary or disclosable pecuniary interests of any matter on today's agenda? Councillor Cowell was looking for you, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just to disclose a non-pecuniary interest in item 9 local plan, as I'm a member of the Torquay Neighbourhood Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to disclose, in accordance with the Nolan principles, 3 non-pecuniary interests. The first, that I was formerly a member of the Brixham Peninsula Neighbourhood Forum. That forum no longer exists, but I thought in the interests of transparency appropriate to disclose that. Following the dissolution of the Brixham Peninsula Neighbourhood Forum, I applied to be a member of the Churston, Gampton and Broadsands Neighbourhood Forum. It's not clear from the minute as to whether that application was ever previously accepted. That forum is dormant and has been since at least 2023, but again I disclose that in the interests of transparency. And thirdly, that I own land within the Torbay area. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think those are all non-pecuniary interests.
So thank you very much. I can't see any other hands. So just a reminder, would members please ensure that they also declare their interest before the relevant item is discussed and complete the interest form which a head of governance support may well have given to you. So have any officers any personal interest in any of the matters on today's agenda? Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on now. That's the formalities done. And I now have the following announcements to make. And I was incredibly proud to attend the English Riviera Air Show. And I'm pleased to welcome to the meeting this evening a number of community volunteers. Without the time, commitment and enthusiasm of our volunteers, we would not have been able to deliver such an entertaining and successful English Riviera Air Show. The certificates being presented this evening reflect the incredible dedication of those who have worked together to create something truly extraordinary for both the local community and our visitors to enjoy. So to say thank you to you all for your invaluable contribution and support. So would the Director of Corporate Services join me as we present the certificates?
So we're going to be doing this in alphabetical order, and the first person is Julie Bryant. Like to come up? I don't know.
Very much. Smile over there.
You can come a little closer if you want. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And we're moving on to Councillor Steve Bryant. And Jan Carlton. Nikki. Martin Comley. Martin Faulkner. A shorter walk this one. Councillor John Fellows. Gayatri. Guy. Michelle Radant. Nikki Redmond. Thanks. Councillor Hannah Stevens. Councillor David Thomas. And Councillor Jackie Thomas.
So again, thank you very much to all of those volunteers, very much appreciated. So we now move on. Has the Leader of the Council any announcements that he wishes to make?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members will be aware that the Government has announced its decision on local government reorganisation for Devon. Rather than adopting the proposal submitted by this Council, the Government has chosen the Plymouth and Exeter proposal. As a result, Torbay will become part of a new expanded unitary authority, bringing together Torbay with 22 neighbouring parishes from South Hams and Teignbridge. While this was not the outcome that we'd argued for, the decision has now been made, and our responsibility is clear. We must work constructively to ensure that the new authority delivers the very best outcomes for all residents, protects local identities, and builds on the many strengths that Torbay already has. So there are no immediate changes to services. Business will continue as usual while the transition arrangements are put in place. Elections to a shadow authority will be in May 2027, and that new authority will assume responsibility in April 2028. I want to thank everyone who has engaged with this process over a long amount of months. The next stage is about shaping the future, ensuring that Torbay works with all of the new parish councils and working together to achieve the best possible outcome for all of the communities that we serve. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And I understand that the Director of Corporate Services and the Overview and Scrutiny Coordinator have no announcements. Okay, change of plan. Councillor Long, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to communicate my concerns about the increasing use of the waiver of the call-in function at least 3 times so far against the wishes of the coordinator. My concern about that is that without the light of scrutiny on decisions, then that results in poorer decisions, which results in the protests such as the one that we've had outside today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on now to the order of business, and I'd like to vary the order of business on today's agenda to enable item 8B on the agenda, the use of the 2025-26 budget underspend, to be considered before item 10, the budget monitoring, revenue and capital outturn 2025-2026 quarter 4. So that's a change to the order of agenda. So I'll now move on to regarding the petition. So a petition has been received requesting the council to provide public toilets in Carey Play Park, Babicombe. It has approximately 106 signatures. The lead petitioner is unfortunately unable to attend to present the petition to the council meeting and has requested Councillor George Darling do it on her behalf. Please note there will be no debate on the petition in accordance with the council's petition scheme. Councillor George Darling, would you like to speak on the petition, and would you please take a seat at the public speaking table? And Councillor Darling, you will have 5 minutes, and I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Due to unforeseen circumstances, I'm reading this statement today on behalf of the lead petitioner and the St Mary Church and District Community Partnership in presenting this petition to Council. It has been a collaborative work together with the Babicombe Traders Association, and I wish to pay tribute to Brian Storer Goldstein for his significant work on this petition. The petition gathered on a single day over 200 signatures, although 106 were fully validated, supporting the provision of toilet facilities returning to Carey Park. This is in line with the Council's recently published play strategy, which highlighted the importance of amenities at Torbay's principal play parks like Carey. It is also a direct answer to Councillor Billing's response to Councillor 14 posed at the February Council meeting that facilities would be included in master planning if there was a, quote, demonstrable need and significant support for water closet provision in Carey Park. This petition meets that challenge and demonstrates that need. Toilet facilities should not be seen as a luxury. They are a necessity. They enable play, especially for younger families, where the availability of changing and toilet facilities has a material impact on where they can take their children. This is important for older residents as well, many who may have to plan time with their grandchildren around availability of facilities. Equality of access is also an important factor. Pupils at the Spires College have recently highlighted how a lack of facilities can have a negative impact on access for peers with disabilities. In particular, they highlighted Kerry Park and the wider Babbacombe area as in need of improved facilities. This petition was performed over a single afternoon and evening at the Reddenhill Midsummer Street Party. We recognise it is therefore not an exhaustive list of support within the local community, but it is a significant demonstration of residents' desire to see toilet facilities return to Kerry Park. We also recognise that the play strategy and renewal of our parks is an ongoing process. We do not expect instant results from this petition. However, it makes clear the aspirations of our community for the return of toilet facilities. We ask that the Council recognise and commit to this aspiration by agreeing to include them in future master planning for Carey Park.
So thank you very much, Councillor Darling. The petition will be referred to the Director and Pride in Place, Alan Denby, for consideration in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Place Development and Economic Growth, Councillor Chris Lewis. The lead petitioner will receive a letter from Mr Denby in due course to advise her of the outcome of the petition. So thank you very much. I now move on to item 7, which is members' questions. The question and answers have been circulated and are noted as submitted. Members, these are available on your iPads under the late reports pack. I will ask for any supplementary questions. For those members asking a supplementary question, it must arise directly out of the original question or the reply. And may I remind members that supplementary questions shall not include a statement. I will be interrupting you if I consider your supplementary question is a statement. Please note there is a time limit of 1 minute to ask a supplementary question, and the response time for each supplementary question is 3 minutes, and the overall maximum time for members' questions in total is 30 minutes. So, question 1. I refer to question 1 in respect of the enhanced resource provision for autism at the Spires College. Councillor Steve Darling, do you have a supplementary question? Thank you very much. And move on to question 2. Councillor Harvey to the Cabinet Member for Pride in Place, Transport and Parking. So it refers to question 2 in respect to the action Swissco are taking to improve the communication with residents when household waste and recycling services disruptions occur. So, Councillor Harvey, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Question 3. I refer to question 3 in respect to resolving the determination of the Sladna Park planning application. Councillor George Darling, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Brooks for his response. I'd just like to check, as this is having an impact on the local plan discussion going forward, will he commit to a decision being made by the December meeting?
Councillor Brooke.
Thank you very much, Councillor Darling, for that supplementary. Very good question. The Council is beholden to help in applications and work through a solution. That's what's been happening the last 3 months. I have, though, raised with the team that how long do we need to give them in order to progress this to a resolution one way or another. So I've actually requested that we write to the applicant and outline what is the timeline. So I would hope, myself, that it will be definitely done by December, one way or another.
Thank you for that response. I refer to question 4 in respect of how Torbay Council will ensure that events it organises supports and benefit Torbay's town centre businesses. So, Councillor Verdi, do you have a supplementary question?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll refer to question 5 in respect of fleet walks, lifts and escalators. Councillor Pentney, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Chris Lewis for his answer. Given the prolonged, and it really is quite prolonged, delay in getting this fixed, can you tell me how the failure to get this sorted accords with the objectives of Operation Brighter Bay?
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Mayor. As you well know, we inherited that building which had a backlog of maintenance that needed to be carried out. It has taken too long. I think we have had problems with the lift operators and others, but we have spoken to the tenants there. It is part of our Brighter Bay. As you know, we are spending a lot of money on that property to make it fit for purpose. Hasn't been fit for purpose, and that I apologise for, but there are reasons for that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I refer to question 6 in respect of how the council is working with companies to remove graffiti from pavement infrastructure boxes. Councillor Law, do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I refer to question 7 in respect of Crossways car park. Councillor Carter, do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
I refer to question 8 in respect of why the Brighter Bay initiative does not apply to the Willows. Councillor Long, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to ask, is the Cabinet Member aware that residents feel that this bush does indeed provide a safety risk when they are turning in or out of the junction, and as a result does not provide a safe and welcoming place for those residents? Thank you.
So Councillor Tarman. Or have I jumped forward too quick? Councillor Billing, sorry. You're next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd just like to recap for the benefit of all members what Brighter Bay actually means. And this is the investment that our council has put in, making our area be as good as it possibly could for all residents and visitors, and making sure that Torbay presents as the outstanding environment we all know it should be. And we've clearly, throughout the term of this administration, invested very considerably in that. Now, Councillor, in relation to the Willows, clearly the Willows is part of Torbay, and clearly Brighter Bay applies to the Willows. And obviously, we're all, as a diligent local authority, we're being respectful of our natural habitats. And I know when we first brought in a very enhanced grass cutting regime, you'll be familiar that the grass is now very well cut on our principal routes, on our final mile routes, as it is around the rest of the bay. We needed to balance that against wildlife habitats. And that's why there are areas that are outlined as this particular area of the Willows are, where we try to maintain the scrub in order to enhance wildlife habitats, that balance between making our area present as good as it can be, whilst also being respectful of our natural habitats. Now, you ask whether I was aware that your constituent had an opinion that they'd shared with you. Until you shared that with me in this meeting, no, I wasn't aware, but thank you for doing so. Perhaps if you'd like to pick this up as a ward issue outside of this meeting, you and I can meet on site and have a discussion about that balance. But it would be much easier to do it, as I have with other colleagues, on site rather than in a formal meeting like this environment. This is the first time you've raised it with me, but I'd be delighted to pick it up later. And for clarity, Madam Mayor, it is the first time it's been raised directly with me through this question. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Then I'll move on to question 9 in respect of when will residents be able to speak to a council tax advisor about their council tax without experience long waits. Councillor Penny, do you have a supplementary?
A good answer, so nothing further at this time, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on then to question 10 in respect of why the council has taken 2 different approaches to selling 2 of its assets. So, Councillor Johns, do you have a supplementary?
I do, Madam Mayor. Thank you. And thank you for the answer, Councillor Lewis. The charity that we were referring to was MENCAP, which is a local charity, which is very important to us, Polsham Centre. It's also important to the community. This administration don't seem to be supporting the charity MENCAP. Can I ask why?
Councillor Tarman, I think this comes under. No? Okay, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much indeed. Of course, we support MENCAP, and I had conversations on that. It's a very difficult and a fine balance. As you know, we sold the monastery to your community partnership for, well, it's going through at the end of the month, for £1. So we do look at each case on its merits. Our problem is that we need capital to fund the many projects that are going on in the Bay. And you'd be the first one, as I would be, you know, we need money for Oldway. We need to get capital in to be able to fund the projects we're doing. We help where we can. We tried to help MENCAP, but they didn't come anywhere near the figure that, as you know, went for auction in the end. Sadly, we couldn't help them. Thank you.
So thank you. I refer to question 11 in respect of the implementation of a severe weather emergency protocol. So Councillor Douglas, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Tranter. Just some clarification, please. Why PATH were not aware of what was actually happening with the severe weather protocol? PATH? Evidently, we're not aware of what was happening with the severe weather protocol.
Councillor Tranter.
Thank you. I know there were some issues last year with some of the charities being off the emailing list, and I was under the assumption that all of that had been resolved. PATH being one of the main charities, I thought they were on the emailing list, so I'll absolutely make sure that that's sorted out. Okay.
Thank you. I refer to question 12 in respect to the insurances that have been put in place to cut back on cross-border hiring and to ensure that Torbay's licensed drivers are not negatively impacted. Councillor Mandy Darling, do you have a supplementary?
I do, Madam Mayor. Can I ask this administration if they will be supporting Torbay drivers, licensed taxi plate holders who are extremely concerned about the impact on their businesses that cross-border hiring is going to bring? Thank you.
Councillor Tranter.
We support all the taxi drivers in any way that we can, but at the minute the local authority doesn't have any authority over the Apple taxes that you've referred to in the question, but we are looking into it. We have, I know we've applied to central government for some more support around it, so we are aware of it.
I'll move on to question 13 in respect of making the land at the end of Darwin Crescent on the Willows Estate publicly accessible. Councillor Fox, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do. In view of the fact that it's always been understood that there will be a play area for the local community in this area, and the fact that the site is currently not even landscaped, which was part of the answer to the question, it's an eyesore. My question is, why can't the council lean a bit more gently, or perhaps less gently, on the developers? Because many people in the area are under the impression that in fact this is a site for a play area, and without that play area there's a lot of antisocial activity going on, just kicking a ball. Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Councillor Fox. I think, and I can feel your frustration that it was felt that Kavanagh were going to provide that and now haven't done so. So I think maybe if we can, outside of this room, have a sort of 3-4-pronged attack on them so that we can do it from the administration, from local councillors, etc., and ask Kavanagh that it may not be in the planning permission, but we believe that they have a duty for the local communities to provide that service. I think that's all we can do. We can't force it upon them. But I think if we put it in such a way that it's their duty to provide it, then I think we might be better. I apologise for my voice today. My wife is very pleased. She's had a peaceful week. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move on to question 14 in respect to the action the council is planning to take to stop the misuse of the fields of Easterfield Lane in Torquay. So, Councillor Harvey, do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Tranter for her answer.
Move on then to question 15 in respect of the steps being taken to better manage the area between Walls Hill Car Park and the Babicombe Cricket Ground, Torquay. Councillor George Darling, do you have a supplementary?
No supplementary, Madam Mayor.
To question 16 in respect of the action the council has taken to ensure equitable access to the electric vehicle infrastructure for the residents of areas such as Playmore and St Mary Church. Councillor Verdi, do you have a supplementary?
No, I don't, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Question 17 in respect of the compensation to the businesses on the upper levels of Fleet Walk who have suffered due to the time taken to repair the lift and the escalators. Councillor Pentney, do you have a supplementary? Thank you. Question 18, in respect to the actions being taken to make the payments from the community ward funds to organisations more quickly. Councillor Law, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. I look forward to the improvement in the process.
Thank you. Question 19. I refer to the question 19 in respect to the company that the council have sold the land at Ockham Farm to. Councillor Long, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor, and I apologise for making Councillor Lewis speak again, but perhaps it'll make him quieter for Councillor Mrs Lewis later. Given the very public difficulties that there have been in East Devon, can the Cabinet Member provide assurances that Torbay Council have at least spoken to East Devon Council about the issues they have faced? Thank you.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much indeed. No, we haven't. We've spoken to the two owners of the two brothers who own Greendale, and we've built up quite a good relationship, Councillor Thomas and myself, with them. And it is all about trust. And we have trust within that. There's always two sides to every argument. We have had one side, and we have heard the other side. But in fact, we believed that they were people who were good people and people that we could do business with. And that's why we did the deal on Ockham Farm. Thank you.
So thank you. Move on to question 20. In respect to the assessment of the impact of the decision on Gideon House will have on the services provided at Torbay Hospital. So Councillor Johns, do you have a supplementary?
Indeed, I do. Councillor Lewis, thank you for the answer, but I don't feel like we have had an answer because it doesn't mention actually an assessment was carried out on the decision of Gideon House. So please, could we have an assessment answer, please?
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm amazed that we had, which you chaired, the adult overview and scrutiny meeting last week, where we had the senior member, Gideon House, was on that agenda, and no one asked him questions on it. I was amazed. The question about Gideon House, the Royal Devon University Healthcare Trust approached us some months ago, years ago, a couple of years ago now, I think. We had 2 floors that were empty, 3 floors that were empty. EDF had moved out. They came to us and they said, can we rent 2 of the floors, take a lease out for 25 years. They had a refit of £10 million that they had to do, 7.5. They asked us if they could make that part of the arrangement with the lease, which is not unusual on commercial, new commercial tenants where you have a refit. So We agreed to that, which is what we've done. Then the Torbay and South Devon Trust came to us and said, you've got a third floor, we would like to rent that third floor. So on a commercial basis only, we are renting them that third floor. We could have said no to all of this. We could have said, no, find your own property, not renting our properties out. We would have lost a lot of money in rent. It would have probably gone maybe to a Chinese company that owned the property in Exeter, with the money going to Beijing. I think it's much better that we rent the properties out, that comes back to the good people of Torbay. In our investment portfolio, we have a net income of 4 million. That 4 million helps to do potholes, to do all kinds of things for Torbay Council. If you have 3 floors at Gadian House that are empty, it is a big chunk of that £4 million. And that's why we did it. What they put in there, we know that the pathology services will go in the first 2 for the extra bit. We haven't been informed what the local trust want to use that floor for, but there has been rumours. But what they have said, any emergency pathology, so all the stories...
20 seconds left.
If someone's on a theatre, they won't be able to get their test done. It is not true. They've assured through the press and others that if it's an emergency, they will still have the ability to carry that out at the hospital. I hope that puts your mind at rest. Thank you very much indeed, ma'am.
Thank you. We'll move on then to question 21 in respect of an update to the delays on recycling collections by Swissco. So, Councillor Carter, do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. 22. In respect of eliminating non-authorised traffic flow up and down Fleet Street. So, Councillor Mandy Darling, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. With a big sigh and an element of déjà vu, I seem to have asked this question so many times with nothing changes. Please, can you tell me what I can tell my residents who constantly come to me with this problem of traffic going up and down? Nothing changes, nothing is done. Please, can you advise what action is going to be taken so I don't have to come back and ask the question again and again and again? Thank you.
Before I bring in Councillor Billings, can we just pause the clock for a few minutes while people are leaving the auditorium so the clock can be stopped? Yeah, it does a bit, yeah.
It's off to Councillor Billings for a response.
All right, thank you. So can we restart the clock, and it's Councillor Billings to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is one of those classic situations where there may be a different opinion as to what's happened going back in time. As Councillor Darling advises, she's asked the same question on a number of occasions. Unfortunately, the advice from our professional officers hasn't changed simply because of that. But what I'd like to do is reassure yet again what we've been doing in order to try to address the problem that she rightfully raises on behalf of her constituents. The difficulty is that there are a number of competing access requirements on this particular area of our highways network, including the need for loading between 6 p.m. and 10 a.m., access for emergency vehicles, access for cyclists, buses, and the access-only exemption is required for vehicles needing to exit Braddons Hill Road West and the terrace, and also taxis that require access from the terrace to serve their Fleet Street ramp. Now, the difficulty with a rise and fall bollard system, which I know one of the councillors on the opposite side, Councillor Pentley, you've seen in Bath, I believe. I've seen a similar thing in Cambridge. The difficulty we've got on this particular area of road is because of the way the services run under the ground, the services are very close to the surface. They're also directly in line with where you would want to put the rise and the fall bollard system. So whilst I have, like you, Councillor Pentley, I've seen it work in other localities. I've seen the Bath one you've referred to. I'm sure you've seen the Cambridge one I'm referring to. The professional officer advice is that simply won't work so well in relation to Fleet Street. And then we've got the other option that we've explored, which is the rising barrier system. Now that will clearly, because there's a physical barrier running across the road, make it more difficult for cyclists. And that's something that goes against the LC whip, the aspiration to enhance travel choice for residents, particularly in relation to giving extra choice about the most sustainable means of transport. Now, one of the things that I believe would have been an excellent way of seeking to have addressed this, and is something that I would be very pleased if in the future government launches it. As a local authority, we have the ability at various times to apply to enforce moving traffic offences. That came up during the term of the previous administration. Sadly, the political direction then, as I understand it, resulted in one where the local authority didn't apply to be able to enforce those. I'm sure government will bring up the opportunity again, and my encouragement, whatever administration is in power, is we should apply as a local authority to be able to enforce moving traffic offences. That would mean our excellent Swissco enforcement team could start to take action in relation to the problems you raise on behalf of your residents. At the moment, because a previous administration didn't apply for that extra power, we can't do so. I hope that reassures Madam Mayor of the steps we're taking. Thank you, and thank you for the question, Councillor Dutt.
Thank you, Councillor Billings. 5 seconds over. I refer to question 23 in respect of how the council is prioritising the risk to the pumping station on Dartmouth Road being overwhelmed and Paignton Town Centre flooded. Councillor Steve Darling, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I do. I'd be really grateful if Councillor Lewis can give us a timescale about when the local authority are working towards resolving this as a risk.
Councillor Lewis.
I can't give you a timescale. I will inquire, but like you, it's frustrating. I think this has been going on for far too long. It's years since we had it. As you can see from my answer, it is a priority with South West Water. I will escalate it even further and see if we can get a date where we will actually have be able to resolve that situation, which must be frustrating for those residents who live in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. I refer to question 24 in respect of a scheme similar to the pay for an hour, stay for the day for bus users during the Christmas period. Councillor Harvey, do you have a supplementary question?
No supplementary, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Move on. Question 25. In respect of the provision of bench seating on Maidencombe Green, Councillor George Darling, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Contrary to the answer, I called my Maidencombe residents today and they said they have spoken with the Swiss cooperative about that. I hope that Councillor Billings would commit to meeting with these residents to try and iron this out and get this moving forward, because there seems to be a little bit of a mismatch here.
Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As per the answer, Councillor Darling, and I'm very clear with the wording on this, and I hope we can find a meeting of minds on this. The answer says Swissco has no record. Now that doesn't mean, as far as I'm aware, that no contact was ever made. It's simply meaning that we have no record of that. And clearly in an organisation as large as the council, as large as Swissco, there may be things that have been recorded incorrectly. I'm simply providing the honest advice that I've received from officers that at the moment there's no record on the contact. Now clearly, I'm very keen that we provide excellent service all across the Bay. And if you believe, as I do, that reaching out to our residents with a physical face-to-face meeting is the best way of resolving something in your ward, I'd be delighted to do that. We've done it in other wards. For example, Madam Mayor, you'll have appreciated the benefits we had in your ward, along with Councillor Bye, when we met with Wellswood residents to devise a better system around the local road network. I think that worked really well because it turned out it was a community-suggested solution that we actually implemented. So, Councillor Darling, if there are suggestions in your ward, I'm sure we can pick those up. I'm very keen that we embody in all the things that we do in the administration, that we put residents at the heart of everything we do, and therefore look forward to meeting with you and them at the Swissco offices. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Move on to question 26 in respect to the council reviewing the Ringo parking practice of requiring the residents to stop their parking session. Councillor Verde, any supplementary?
Third time, no questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Move on to question 27 in respect of how the council plans to ensure Torbay becomes an example of inclusive communities informed practice where all residents feel valued, heard and safe. Councillor Law.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like a supplementary question. I'd like to ask Councillor Tranter, who are the members of the Inclusion Partnership, and will the Insight Alliance be invited to take part into the future? Thank you.
Councillor Tranter.
I don't know off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but we've already included them with everything, as you can see in the question, the answer. So yeah, absolutely, they'll be included. I'll get back to you with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 28 in respect to the action the council has taken to improve the traffic flow outside the Golden Palm Arcade and Carry Parade. Councillor Mandy Darling, any supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
In respect to the auction of the Polsham Centre in Paynton. Councillor Darling, a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once upon a time, Torbay Council transferred the ownership of the Echo Centre on St James's Road and took account of social value. Apart from the control of the council now being with the Conservatives, what has changed and why did the local authority not take account of social value when requested to by MENCAP?
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. As I repeat what I said before, we did take it into account, like we did with the monastery. But in fact, they were so way out in the amount of money that they could afford. We need capital in to help get many of our projects across the line. We help where we can, where we can't help. Unfortunately, this is one of those cases, and I'm looking forward to the monastery being delivered to the local community, hopefully at the end of next week. Yep. So it's not that we don't do it, it's that we have to be careful of, it is taxpayers' money, taxpayers' assets that we're dealing with. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, thank you. Well, we've gone over our 30 minutes, so that is the end of the questions. So I now move on to item 8A, which is the use of the capital receipt for the disposal of Ockham Farm. So would Councillor Cowell please put your motion to the council as attached on the agenda, notice of which was given in accordance with Standing Orders A13. Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I actually think that the motion is self-explanatory. And we have had precedents of ring fencing and targeting capital receipts towards housing projects, such as the receipt from Preston Down Road. So this motion is simply saying that the capital receipt, which would not be insignificant from the sale of Ockham, should be used as a targeted resource to support the delivery of social housing across the 3 towns of Torbay. And we deliberately worded it in that way, mindful of LGR, so that it couldn't end up being spent in Teignmouth in 4 years' time or whenever. And it's important that we try to get a project and identify a project. The project that comes to my mind is the opportunity to deliver 40-ish affordable, social rented general purpose homes in the centre of Paignton on the site that is currently being demolished, i.e. 62 to 70 Victoria Street. Having spoken to officers, we know that that project could cost in the region of around £12 million, and that opportunity then would enable us to apply for 50% grant funding from Homes England. So being able to repurpose that site in a positive way, and it should be a quick win. If we can acquire that site, then we can actually get on with delivery of much needed general purpose, or maybe even some supported living if there is the demand, bearing in mind that we've got Crossways coming on stream down the road towards the end of this year. So it's a simple request that the capital receipt be ring-fenced for the delivery of much needed social housing in Torbay. It would also go towards the delivery of our housing supply, which we know is woefully inadequate because of the slowdown in the private sector. I personally can't see any private developer taking on that site in the current economic climate. If it was to be viable, that we could put in some public funds and Homes England grant into the centre of Paignton and help regenerate Station Square as an example. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor, and if I may, I'd like to reserve my right. Thank you.
I now invite debate. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So nobody disputes the need for affordable and social housing. And at the same time, nobody can deny the amount of social housing that this administration has provided over the last 3 years. Significantly more than any other administration for at least 20 plus years. However, we can't support this motion in its current form. And why not? It seeks to ring-fence what is a significant capital receipt before any detailed work has been undertaken to establish whether the proposed scheme of 62 to 70 is viable. Is it deliverable? Or does it represent the best value for our residents? It also identifies that specific site and even references potential purchase or compulsory purchase powers without the necessary due diligence having been completed. That is simply the wrong way round. We should carry out the work first and make decisions afterwards. There's also a practical concern. Publicly signalling that we intend to spend a substantial capital receipt on acquiring a particular site risks raising expectations, and that could undermine the council's negotiating position with the current owner. That is not a sensible way to protect public money. Our responsibility is to act in the best interests of Torbay Council's taxpayers. Residents would rightly expect us to recover the money that is owed to the council through the demolition, not to simply use public funds in a way that could effectively bail out the current owner. If, after proper appraisal a housing scheme proves to be viable, affordable, and represents the best value for residents, then of course it could come back to this council as a fully costed business case for a proper consideration. But today, we are being asked to commit potentially millions of pounds before we know whether the proposal is deliverable, whether it's financially sound, or whether it is the best use of that capital receipt. And for those reasons, we simply cannot support this motion this evening.
So do I have any hands? Councillor Timon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You might expect me, with the portfolio for housing, to actually think it would be lovely to have some more money to spend to get more done. And if you look at what we have achieved, picking up from what Councillor Thomas has said, this administration either has, through completions for projects underway or for those that have received council or, as appropriate, cabinet approval, got started or progressed what will provide over 200 units of social housing. We won't have got all of those finished by the end of this administration, because projects like Crossways take a long time to build, but that's a combination of what will be completed and underway. In order to do that, in order to get us to where we are now, this council has received £3 million of funding from the Levelling Up money, £2 million of funding from the Combined County Authority, 1.2 million of funding from the revenue budget for 2025-26 that was approved by this council. Actually, I find at the moment I'm not short of funds to be able to achieve what we want to and need to achieve. Members will be aware that on top of that, we have, as was put forward by the proposer of the motion, earmarked the funds from Preston Down Road to go to affordable housing, and a large part of those has already been committed to supporting Crossways. But frankly, the problem we have at the moment in delivering more, and I'd like to deliver more, is not actually funding. It's actually the capacity and the work to get things done. 62 to 70 Victoria Street will be, or would be, a complicated site from the point of view of planning and getting delivered. I think that that would divert resources from schemes that are much easier to deliver and will therefore actually potentially reduce the total amount of social housing that we are able to provide in the next 2 or 3 years. That doesn't mean to say I wouldn't like to do it. I would like to do it, but if it was at the right price. One of the things we cannot afford to do, in my opinion, is to be seen as a council to be overpaying, overcompensating landowners to get things going, to get things moving. We need to produce schemes that are viable, and I believe we're being extraordinarily successful in doing that in the ways we've set up. So I don't support this for 2 reasons. One, I don't think actually money is the constraint at the moment. I don't need more money for the programme over the next 2 or 3 years. And actually flagging up, as has been mentioned, Victoria Street, to take on a complicated site at possibly, but purchasing at too high a price, actually could be counterproductive. And I don't want to go down the committing ourselves to that route. Officers in the council are in discussion on that site. If the right deal could be done, I think we should do it. But to actually commit to doing it now, putting it into the public domain, would be highly foolish. It's not the way you conduct negotiations and get the best deal for council, best deal for our ratepayer, and actually the best results for the people that need to be living in social housing. They need us to produce good numbers in a good way. It might include this site, it might very well not. On that basis, I'm afraid I cannot support this proposal in front of us, but I am fully supporting that we will continue to push into to feed into the system a lot of new social housing schemes.
30 seconds
and therefore
left.
will be fully able to meet the ambitions that have been stated in the Council's housing strategy and council and ambitions that are shared across this chamber.
Thank you. Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like my colleagues, I have significant difficulty with the notice of motion as presented. The important point is that there are two parts in the notice of motion. The first part, which Councillor Cowell, you spoke at length to, is one that I think there'd be a significant meeting of minds on. The first part is in relation to ring-fencing the money for the delivery of social rented housing in our three towns. Now, irrespective of whether money is or is not the constraint at this point, as Councillor Tyerman has identified, I don't think that would be a controversial point. And perhaps, Councillor Cowell, that's why you majored on that first point. What I think is controversial is the second point of the notice of motion. That's that second point where it goes on to prescribe the ring-fenced money to a specific scheme and then goes on to say if the scheme cannot be worked up satisfactorily, that we should prepare a compulsory purchase of the site. And that's something that I haven't heard articulated as to why that is a good thing. And bearing in mind that is the most controversial point, I'm sure, to the promoters of this notice of motion, that's the bit it would have been most helpful to have here advocated for in debate. As Councillor Thomas and Councillor Tyerman have expressed, I do not see that it would be sensible to divert resources to a scheme which, whilst it will have regeneration benefits, would necessarily reduce the overall quantum of social rented housing that can be achieved. It is the delivery of the overall number of social rented housing that is important for our residents, to give them the type of housing that our area needs, and it's also relevant for the local plan in terms of delivering our housing numbers, and we'll come on to that, I'm sure, in a later item. So it is with that reluctance that I can't support this either. Point one, the allocation to delivering social rented housing, something very sensible perhaps, but the point two, where it's allocating it to a particular scheme and then goes on to talk about compulsory purchase, that's simply something that I could not support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any more hands? Councillor Long, you're right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And we've had discussions about the following motion, and I'm surprised that there haven't been efforts to discuss this motion with us, given what's been said. And perhaps if a member from the opposite side could indicate that if we were to drop the second part of the motion, if they were willing to agree to the first part, then perhaps we could have a discussion about that, maybe with a pause in the meeting. But we can, I mentioned that just while I speak the rest of my speech, but I'll leave that to the administration to indicate, or a signal of some sort. It is interesting what has been said so far, because 48 hours seems to make such a difference, because at the Cabinet, the administration was saying how much they were in favour of social rent. And the usual refrain has been coming that
hasn't this administration done well compared to other administrations in building social rent? But of course, they haven't had a pandemic over 2 years like the last administration had. But even so, the last administration put much of the funding and groundwork into the housing department, which enabled much of this delivery. And of course, despite saying at Cabinet how much they agreed with social rent housing, of course, their first act was to ditch the scheme at Preston Down Road, which was all ready to be delivered, and of course, which I disagree with Councillor Timon, I feel would have been delivered by now because it would have been delivered by a housing association and not a big developer. The other point that Councillor Cowell touched on, but I just wanted to stress, was of course that Crossways and some of the homes that they agreed to at Cabinet are earmarked for specialist housing, such as extra care and not general needs. And much of what we're stressing, which is also a great need, is about general needs housing, of which there is a great need. 62 to 70 Victoria Road was, of course, meant to be a regeneration scheme and one that we argued for. And, of course, it's not been delivered by this administration. In fact, almost the complete opposite. And the leader's speech kind of inadvertently revealed how little work has been done on 62 to 70 under this administration. And of course, we have had discussions with officers who gave us a much different indication to one that's been given this evening. There seemed to be a welcoming of us suggesting this. And of course, those on the waiting list and in temporary accommodation, they're taxpayers too. So they need that. I fear that Councillor Timon saying money isn't an issue, he may come to regret that, I fear, at the budget round coming up. The other thing is that the government, under the new Prime Minister, are going to be committing to a council house programme, and this council should not be turning its nose up at that opportunity when there may be further funding down the line. I'm not aware of an indication about my offer for a discussion around the second element being dropped, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure if you have, but if there is nothing coming forward, I would request a recorded vote, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Recorded vote accepted. And we'll move on to Councillor Cowell to exercise his right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to say I'm disappointed would be an understatement. To say I'm surprised would be, not surprised I should say, is a statement of fact. Because we have the opportunity here, and we made it clear at the second point, and I would have supported the removal of 2 if that had actually got the protection of this capital receipt into the coffers to deliver much needed social rented accommodation. Now, if I was Cabinet Member for Housing, and I'm only the mere shadow, then I would have been welcoming any opportunity to take a capital receipt to be able to support the delivery of social rented homes. My concern is without any protection of this capital receipt, and as we say, it's not an insignificant capital receipt, it could end up anywhere for any project. Missing the opportunity to deliver much needed homes in our 3 towns. As for this thing about signalling to the developer and the current owner that, you know, they can name their price and we'll pay it, absolute nonsense. 2 actually specifically says that the valuation would be based on the market value. And in the event of the purchase price not being agreed, then we would go down the route of compulsory purchase, giving officers the opportunity to use that power if appropriate. Hopefully it wouldn't be. Obviously, since the motion came forward, we've now seen the demolition or partial demolition, as it's in progress, of that particular building. But I noticed when Councillor Long suggested that removing item 2 of this motion, then, and signalling some support from the administration, one member of the Cabinet was actually shaking his head, despite having just said that he would be supportive of ring fencing it, but he wouldn't be prepared to support it when it comes to the final analysis. So if this is voted down and defeated tonight because of the Conservatives yet again voting with their hands against more social housing, as we saw at Preston Down Road, then I think it would be very, very disappointing. I recognise, and I often say to colleagues, that the delivery of the hotels to home scheme, or repurposing as it's now called, because it actually can draw in other properties, has been a success. We have a very, very competent and capable housing officer who's helping us to deliver those schemes. And I have to say that that funding was put in place by the previous administration. Councillor Long alluded to some of the challenges we had during our time. We didn't have a housing department. Housing was spread to all 4 corners of the town hall. That work to actually start bringing that role together in one place started under the previous administration. And I welcome and embrace the fact that with Councillor Tymon's commitment to helping deliver some of these projects, we've actually made the progress that we have. This isn't about politics, this is about the people of our bay who actually need social rented homes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As this is a recorded vote, I will call out councillors' names in alphabetical order. Could I ask you to put your microphone on and indicate whether you're voting for the motion, against it, or abstaining? Councillor Emil.
For.
Councillor Atiala.
For.
For. Councillor Billings.
Against.
Councillor Brooke.
Against.
Councillor Bryant. Councillor Bye. Councillor Carter.
For.
Councillor Cowell.
For.
Councillor George Darling.
For.
Councillor Mandy Darling.
For.
Councillor Steve Darling.
For.
Councillor Douglas Dunbar.
For.
Councillor Fellows.
Against.
Councillor Foster.
Against.
Councillor Fox.
For.
Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Johns.
For.
Councillor Law.
For.
Councillor Barbara Lewis. Councillor Chris Lewis.
Against.
Councillor Long.
For.
Councillor Penny.
For.
Councillor Pentney.
For.
Councillor Spagania.
Against.
Councillor Stevens.
Against.
Councillor Strang.
Against.
Councillor David Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Jacqueline Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Tolchard.
Against.
Councillor Tranter.
Against.
Councillor Twelves.
Against.
Councillor Tyman. Councillor Verdi.
For.
Thank you. That completes the votes. Give us a moment to count them up. Madam Mayor, there are 16 votes for the motion, 17 votes against the motion, and 3 absent. Therefore, the motion falls.
Thank you. So now move on to item number 9, the Local Plan Regulation 19 publication. So I'd like to call on Councillor Dave Thomas to put the Cabinet's motion to the Council.
Thank you very much indeed. And I rise this evening to effectively speak on behalf of Council. Apologies.
Councillor Cowell.
I just want to reaffirm my declaration as expressed at the start of the meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that. Councillor Billings.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just reaffirm the same declaration as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, both of those are accepted. Councillor Dave Thomas.
Thank you very much indeed. And I rise this evening to speak on behalf of Councillor Lewis, who has led the whole process, and this is effectively to try to save his voice. So I do have some words written by Councillor Lewis, so you'll just have to imagine that I am him, but it'll be very difficult, I'm sure. Today is a significant moment for Torbay as we consider the next stage of our local plan review, and we seek approval to proceed to Regulation 19 consultation. So this plan is about shaping the future of Torbay in a way that reflects both our ambitions and our realities. It's about ensuring that future generations have access to homes, jobs and opportunities while protecting the unique environment that makes Torbay such a special place. As members will know, the government's current methodology suggests that Torbay should be delivering in excess of 900 homes per year. However, we must be realistic about the exceptional constraints that exist within our authority. Torbay is geographically unique. We have the sea on one side and significant environmental and landscape designations that rightly protect much of our natural environment and valued open spaces. These constraints are both real and unavoidable. Having carefully considered the evidence, we believe that a more realistic and deliverable figure is about 400 homes per year. That doesn't mean we lack ambition, but it does mean we are pursuing a plan that is achievable, sustainable, and rooted in the realities of our area. Our responsibility is not simply to allocate numbers on paper, it is to ensure that growth is accompanied by the infrastructure, services, and environmental protections that our communities expect and deserve. I would also like to place on record my appreciation for the collaborative approach that has been taken throughout this process. The Local Plan Working Party has worked constructively and has achieved valuable cross-party support. That consensus demonstrates our shared commitment to securing the best possible outcome for Torbay, regardless of political differences. Furthermore, I welcome the positive discussion at the recent Overview and Scrutiny Board, where members supported moving forward to the next stage of the process and proceeding to Regulation 19 consultation. This provides an important endorsement that the work undertaken to date is robust and worthy of further public engagement. Proceeding to Regulation 19, as we all know, is not the end of the journey. It is, however, another important step in developing a sound local plan, one that gives Torbay a stronger voice in determining its own future, rather than having development imposed upon us in an unplanned way. This plan seeks to strike the right balance, delivering much-needed homes and economic growth while protecting the landscapes, coastline and communities that define Torbay's character. Today, we have the opportunity to bring forward Regulation 19 for consultation, and I ask the Council to support the recommendation before them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to second and reserve my right. Thank you.
open to debate. Councillor Long, as you are the shadow cabinet member, would you like to go first?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And I wanted to start off with, I wanted to agree with the comments made by the Torquay Neighbourhood Forum at Overview and Scrutiny about their lack of representation, despite other neighbourhood forums having representation one way or another at the working party. The proposed development under this plan, is being shifted from the southern end of the bay to the northern end of the bay, which a number of members of my group are very unhappy with. Contrary to what has just been said in the proposing, the working party was not collaborative, it was in fact politicised. I want to cite two examples. Firstly, when the Barton with Watcombe councillors issued a letter encouraging residents to respond to the earlier consultation to developments in the area, it led to a social media pylon against ourselves from many members of the other side, and indeed one of the infamous videos from the former MP being very critical. The second example is regarding Monksbridge, where opposition members were accused of being against withdrawing Monksbridge from the draft local plan, which was incorrect. Interestingly, a recent Freedom of Information request has revealed an interesting piece of information which stated that the reason that a small piece of land by Monksbridge was not sold to the town council for £1 was because it occupied a strategic position, and I quote, with adjoining land having the potential for future development. The site would serve as a, in quotes, link between an appointed highway and a potential development site, at which point its value would increase significantly. So there seemed to be confusion in the council as to whether they were wanting the site out or kept in. And because of the political way the administration has handled the drafting of the local plan, the Lib Dem group could not be supportive at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think it was back in 2011 when I first got involved in and helped set up the Torquay Neighbourhood Forum, which has been a massive contributor to planning issues and planning development, both at neighbourhood level but also at local plan level. I reiterate the comments and disappointment at the lack of engagement officially with the neighbourhood forums. I sit on that working party as a councillor representing the independent group. I do not sit on that working party as a member of the Torquay Neighbourhood Forum. I'm not an officer of the Torquay Neighbourhood Forum. And we all know, in actual fact, that anybody who follows the forum's contributions at planning committee and in other general planning submissions, that they make a positive contribution to debate and either in support or opposition to any particular development. They are certainly not NIMBYs. And I would put a plea to the chair of the working party in these latter stages that we actually open the door to those members of the forums across Torbay where they want to send a formal representative to sit on that local plan working party. It was a plea that fell on deaf ears by and large over the period of time, but it's a wrong that can be righted. I recognise the huge amount of work, and I think we should pay tribute to the planning team, and I see a couple of members of the team sat in the public gallery on a Thursday evening when they could be out possibly having a drink or something else, more sociable. But that is just the level of engagement and importance that they attached to all of the work that they've done in the last couple of years to get to where we are. Clearly, the local plan has a huge focus, and all we ever seem to do is talk about the housing numbers, and it's incredibly important. It's important that we actually get to Reg 19, get through Reg 19, and actually have our local plan on deposit by the end of the year. Failure to do so will result in us losing all of that work and effectively starting from scratch under the new planning, local plan development regime that has been implemented. That could take around 3 years. That 3 years would lead us wide open to predatory development on the greenfields that we as a local plan, working party and others in our community seek to protect. But of course, the local plan isn't just about housing, it's about the whole spatial development of Torbay. And it's how we protect those valuable environmental spaces that makes Torbay the special place that it is. So I will be supporting going to Reg 19. I know my colleagues within the Lib Dem group have had their concerns, but I do believe, and I know that they do, that we need to get this plan through further, otherwise we are at that risk I just alluded to. And I think one of the other elements within the local plan is the ability to actually demonstrate a trajectory of delivery over a number of years, starting low, rising up. That actually allows us to do two things. One, it reflects the poor economy that we have nationally in the delivery of housing, and we know the government has reiterated its prioritisation of delivery of council housing. We have the opportunity of being able to deliver much more social rented. We've just lost the opportunity potentially of 40 or 45 by the previous vote, but that's another matter. But also it allows us to bring our infrastructure up to speed, particularly around water supply and water disposal. And that infrastructure, and of course our transport network, to be able to support the delivery of the average of 400 plus homes a year. So I will be supporting the motion to go to Reg 19. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any other hands? Councillor Steve Darling.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think it is really important, as a colleague has just now, is to thank the officers for the incredible work that they've put into the local plan. I think it's even more important that we thank the Torquay neighbourhood plan for all their hard work that they've done over many years, because to be fair, the officers do get paid for their work, whereas Rodney Horder and his colleagues on the Torquay neighbourhood plan do it for pure altruism and supporting our community. And that's where it sticks in my craw at the moment, the fact that there is the warm words of community engagement, and yet this administration have turned their back on self-made experts around planning for Torquay, and yet engaged with another one that's been another neighbourhood plan that's been there. So I think it is really uncomfortable. I have great difficulty supporting this because it is a perverse culture that we have at work here, where there are members of the community who've done incredible work over many years, and this council has turned their back on them who are willing partners. And so how is it possible to back this when there's been this failure of engagement?
Thank you. Councillor George Darling.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As several of my colleagues have said, we have significant concerns about the handling and process with this local plan and the proposed progression to the Regulation 19 consultation, especially in the context of the recent local government reorganisation decision. To start with, we've concerns at the timeline that members are being asked to dance to in order to get this local plan over the line. We're facing a deadline at the end of December, and it will be considered at the council's December meeting. This doesn't seem like the right forum to do this, and it'll be rushed and will lead to a local plan that does not meet our residents' aspirations and concerns. We're also being told that because of this tight timeline, any delay would likely result in the local plan not passing. This includes interventions which are wholly out of our control. We've already seen the minister intervene twice, and I would not be surprised if we see a third. It is reckless to invest further officer time and capital into this plan when there's a high risk it will be wasted. Separate to the timeline, the report even acknowledges there's a high risk of failure. To quote the report, there is a high risk of the local plan not being found sound. It seems crazy to me that we're continuing with this when a local plan, likely to fail, would probably only give Torbay 5 years of protection from speculative development and would imminently be replaced due to last week's local government reorganisation decision. Pursuing this course of action, to me, seems futile. The justification of sunken costs and officer time allocated this already does not justify the potential future wasted resources. It is not just the process itself which concerns me. The failure to engage with our residents, as some of my colleagues have alluded to, has led to some feeling excluded and marginalised. The Torquay Neighbourhood Forum has already been brought up by several of my colleagues, but as mentioned, we feel it's led to a top-heavy local plan focusing on the north of Torbay and taking houses away from the south. On the one occasion where the Torquay Neighbourhood Forum were able to attend, one of the sites they wished to discuss, Sladner Park, was not permitted due to the ongoing planning application. And I appreciate Councillor Brooks' intervention and response earlier to the question, but it looks like that application may not even be completed before the local plan process is completed, which makes it very difficult for them to engage on it. We also saw a complete disparity between the treatment of the north and the south of the bay. When residents of Brixham objected to the Monksbridge site, it was removed. When residents of Maidencombe objected to Maidencombe Cross, the council decided to contact landowners and retain as much of that site as they could. This has not just been a disparity in treatment, it's a different standards of decision in the north versus the south. Brixham will not meet its housing need. It provides 30 houses a year, which does not meet even the old NPF targets for Brixham. We've also seen the allocation for BCG villages reduced to less than 10% of the sites we were considering at the start of the process. And finally, there's a dangerous politicisation of the process, which is seen throughout it. The removal of Monksbridge, which has been referenced, only occurred once a by-election in Brixham was called. To me, I believe that's cynical opportunism and not how the local plan should have been determined. Another example is Kennels Road, which members had voted to take to consultation, but was brought back to a subsequent meeting and required voting again. Madam Mayor, to conclude, Torbay will cease to exist in 2 years, and that has made this local plan obsolete. I encourage colleagues to vote against the progression to Regulation 19 today, based on the blatant politicisation, inequitable treatment of residents, and recklessness in continuing this process.
Thank you. So, any more hands? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much. And I'm not going to speak for long, but I'm extremely disappointed, really disappointed. After all the hard work that we've done at the Working Party, we had a cross-party agreement. The Neighbourhood Forum came to the Overview and Scrutiny meeting. They said, look, take the numbers down on Sladner Park and we'll agree for the plan to go through. Members who work on the Working Party, Councillor Fox and others, Sladner Park's come up about 3 or 4 times. The officers have made it very clear it has a planning permission already in there. If we'd taken that out, the inspector would have been all over us, because the one thing that the inspector who was forced on us said, you cannot take sites out that already have planning permission. Our officers made it very clear that you cannot take sites out that have already got planning permission. So all of this seems to be under Sladner Park. Overview and Scrutiny was about Sladner Park, and today is about Sladner Park. I've not been political on Sladner Park at all. I've been very fair, and I've asked officers to give their opinion. As far as chucking all this away, Councillor Darling, we've done an awful lot of work. You've come to some of the meetings, but not all of them. We've come and we've worked hard to get this local plan through. We're at the next hurdle, and then it'll come to council in December. We've had notification from the department that they have taken on board what we've said in reply to what Councillor Thomas replied to the Minister. They've taken that on board, and they are not intervening at this stage. They want us to go forward to Regulation 19. They want us to go forward to the inspector in the new year. So it would be horrific to throw all that away, and then we'd have to wait 3 years to get the new system through. So I'm just shocked that the Lib Dems are not going to support this. This really doesn't give a good message out to those people, the Minister and others. I thought we could do it and we were going to be united. Clearly not, which is very disappointing. And I think it will be disappointing for those people who worked on the Working Party. A lot of people haven't attended the Working Party, so they don't know what went on there. It wasn't political. It was very much everyone working together to get the best plan for the Bay. I think this is the best plan for the Bay, and I'm really disappointed if we don't get the support. Thank you.
Standing order A15.13, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
Sorry, could you put your microphone on and repeat that, please?
Standing order A15.3, Madam Mayor, point of personal explanation.
Okay, go ahead, your personal explanation.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, I hadn't said removal of Standard Park at all, and I've never advocated for that.
Thank you for that clarification. Move on, any more hands? Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Thomas set out, I would like to pay tribute to the cross-party working that did take place during the local plan working party meetings. And I particularly would note a comment that Councillor Cowell, you used, because it's something I fundamentally agree with. You said when you spoke earlier that it's fundamentally important that we get our plan on deposit with government by the end of the year. I totally agree. What I'd like to do for those members that may not have been part of the process is to reiterate why that is so important, because I want our residents to understand why it is so important as well. The alternative of not getting a local plan on deposit by the end of the year is that our council area is subject to the standard method. The standard method is 970 homes a year currently, and that number is increasing. So, what does 970 plus homes a year look like for Torbay? Within 14 years, everything will be built on. Every playing field, every sports pitch, every green space, every bit of farmland, every car park, even the SAC and Brixham is required in order to deliver 970 homes a year before we're full. You would be able to tell the boundaries of Torbay because that's when development started. There would be nothing left. Now, I do not believe that the appropriate way forward for development in Torbay is simply mass house building of that scale. Because again, to quote from what you spoke about, Councillor Cowell, it's important we look at lots of things, not just housing. We need job creation, we need areas for recreation, we need areas for nature conservation, we need areas for landscape conservation, because ultimately it's those things that make our area such a nice place to live and such a good place for visitors to come here to drive our tourism industry. Now, I appreciate there has been some discussion across the chamber that on the Liberal Democrat side, you think it better to have no local plan and a standard target of 970 homes a year that's increasing. I don't find that a sensible alternative. We have, and we've prepared it on a cross-party basis, this draft local plan. We're not talking here about adopting it, we're talking about putting this forward for consultation. The next stage that we're all trying to agree is to put the local plan in its current draft form out for Regulation 19 consultation. That consultation allows interested landowners, interested residents, neighbourhood forums and others to put their comments forwards. We will then have the opportunity collaboratively on a cross-party basis to embody those comments in further iterations of the plan. Now, that information, as we were given in an updated form by the Director of Pride in Place only on Tuesday night at Cabinet, is why, despite there being 2 published letters of concern from the Minister in the pack that we have in front of us, is why he's provided, through his officials, feedback to the Council that he's satisfied, it would appear, based off the efforts we're making forward to bring this local plan forward. Now, we talked earlier in the meeting, members, about the need for social housing. Let's just pick up that one topic. In order to deliver the step change in delivery that we've thus far started through the accommodation repurposing or hotels to homes project, we need relevant policies in the local plan to enable that to continue. Why would we not want that? Why would we instead be sort of saying, no, this is too difficult? I fundamentally don't understand why we wouldn't want to continue this. If there are concerns or comments about individual sites, that is the whole purpose of a Regulation 19 process. It's to enable that extra information gathering process to refine what will be the submitted plan, which I hope, like Councillor Cow says, will be into government by the end of the year. Madam Mayor, I really will hope that those members of the Local Plan Working Party who participated on a collaborative cross-party basis will support this.
30 seconds left.
If nothing else, I really hope they abstain. Because to me, what's more important than a group whip or a group vote is to actually do what is best for the residents of Torbay. And for me, that is having a local plan in place that we can give to government by the end of the year and put it on deposit. And therefore, for that timescale to happen, we need to launch the Regulation 19 consultation in accordance with the Officer Advice now, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And next is Councillor Dave Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I stand up to sum up. And I can't believe what I'm going to be saying is nothing like what I thought I was going to be saying at the start. We're in a very, very different place. I mean, do I really need to talk about what it means not to have a local plan? We know a loss of an up-to-date local plan puts this council relying on an out-of-date, an ageing out-of-date local plan. Many policies will carry less weight when trying to determine planning applications, particularly if they conflict with more recent national policy. We become at greater risk of planning appeals. We have massively reduced control over where development happens. There's huge issues around housing land implications. We could even end up in government intervention. Government has made clear that authorities failing to produce an up-to-date local plan may face intervention. Is that what you want? I don't think it is. I cannot believe that members opposite, or some members opposite, want to just throw everything away. The wasted time, the wasted effort. The amount of work that our communities have put into this. We just want to bin it. But from what I'm hearing, some of our opposition members are saying exactly what they're going to do. They're going to effectively vote this down tonight. But what are they voting down? Are we adopting the local plan tonight? Oh, no, no, no. This is not adoption of the local plan. This is a consultation on Regulation 19. So tonight, in a moment, we're going to take a vote to see if we want to consult with our community, our residents, businesses, developers. Now, maybe I misunderstood, and forgive me if I have, but maybe I misunderstood. Maybe some of the members opposite don't want to engage with the public for Regulation 19. I don't know. I simply can't work it out. But that is the vote that we'll be taking for a moment, to consult on Regulation 19. This council and the land around Torbay and what makes Torbay unique is totally at risk if we can't get this across the line. Time is tight. We know that. Do we really want to put all of that at risk? So my plea to the members opposite who are thinking, we're going to vote this down because my group whipper says we're going to vote it down. If you seriously considering voting down that the community can't have a view on the consultation this evening, I am extremely disappointed. Madam, I request a recorded vote, please.
Recorded vote accepted.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I raise a point of factual accuracy, please?
I can hear a voice. Who was it who spoke?
Councillor.
Yeah. Can you put your microphone on when you speak?
It was on, Madam Mayor. It's just to say that reference has been made twice to there being a group whip on this side. The Liberal Democrat group does not have a group whip. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. We'll now move on to the vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as this is a recorded vote, I'll be calling out each councillor's name in alphabetical order. If you can put your microphone on and indicate whether you are voting for, against or abstaining, and then turn your microphone off. Councillor Emil.
For.
Councillor Atia Allah.
Against.
Councillor Billings.
For.
Councillor Brooke.
For.
Councillor Bryant.
For.
Councillor Bye.
For.
Councillor Carter.
Against.
Councillor Cowell.
For.
Councillor George Darling.
Against.
Councillor Mandy Darling. Councillor Steve Darling.
Against.
Councillor Douglas Dunbar.
Against.
Councillor Fellows.
For.
Councillor Foster.
For.
Councillor Fox.
Abstain.
Councillor Harvey.
Against.
Councillor Johns.
Abstain.
Councillor Law.
Against.
Councillor Barbara Lewis. Councillor Chris Lewis.
For.
Councillor Long.
Against.
Councillor Penny.
Against.
Councillor Pentney.
Against.
Councillor Spagagna.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Strang.
For.
Councillor David Thomas.
For.
Councillor Jacqueline Thomas.
For.
Councillor Tolshard.
For.
Councillor Tranter.
For.
Councillor Twells.
For.
Councillor Tyreman. And Councillor Verdi.
Abstain.
Thank you, councillors. We'll just count those up. The votes are as follows: for 19 votes, against 11 votes, abstain 3 votes. Therefore, the motion is carried.
Thank you. So we now move on to 8B, which is regarding the use of the 2025-2026 budget underspend. So would Councillor Cowell please like to put his motion to the council as attached on the agenda, notice of which was given in accordance with Standing Order A13.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And since this motion was originally tabled, there's been some significant collaborative working cross-party. So we are in quite a complex procedural process now, and if anyone wants it explained, then I'm sure the monitoring officer will be more than happy to do so, because I'm not. But I will be moving this motion, and then it will be seconded, and then I am aware of the cross-party amendment that was tabled and published this afternoon, which Councillor Thomas will be moving, and I will be seconding. So I will technically move the motion as read. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And is there a seconder?
I think I'm technically seconding, Madam Mayor, and if I could reserve my right, if that's a thing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I now invite debate. So, Councillor Dave Thomas, is that yourself?
I'm quite happy to move my amendment at this point. Thank you very much. And I really would just say this is a great example of working together, cross-party working. And so this revolves, and we're going to talk, and this is why it really is complicated, because we're going to deal with the motion, we're going to talk a little bit about it, and then in a moment, it'll come up as an item, and we can talk about it again. So my apologies, it is complicated, it really is. But this is effectively about the underspend of £174,000 that we've got within the budget. And it's been through the process, overview and scrutiny, and my colleagues opposite effectively recognised that they wanted to put 87,000 into adult social care transition reserve and 87,000 into some place-based areas. And we were supportive of that, but we wanted to go a little bit further because we had a conversation with Swissco to find out exactly some of the things that we specifically wanted to do. So you'll see in here, in the cross-party amendment, the first item is £17,000 for enhanced graffiti removal. Now, what does that mean? Basically, there are some places that are not a million miles from here that have graffiti. Is that right? I've lost the word now. Yeah, thank you. I got myself tongue-tied. And a number of ways of doing that have proven very difficult because the location is hard to reach. So you can't blast it with lots and lots of water. You'd need, to power wash. But a way forward on that is to invest in a steam machine. Doesn't need as much water. That is £17,000. So we'd be able to deal with that graffiti as soon as they have the machine, but it does mean that Swissco would have the machine to be able to use in other hard-to-reach areas. And one of the pieces of work that we've spoken positively about in this chamber has been road signage. At the end of your street where it says Arcadia Avenue. And what we know is that Swissco have been going out to clean those, and in a number of instances, quite a lot of instances, the road sign is actually deteriorated beyond its life. And therefore it can't just be clean, the reflective surface has gone, and that needs to be replaced. So £12,000 actually would be going into replacing those damaged road signs, which leaves a total of 145,000. So we're effectively agreeing to increase from 87,000 to 145,000. And I want to pick up the words because these words came directly from across the floor, and we have absolutely not changed any of those words, and I think that's really important to galvanise that cross-party support. So I am going to read those words. £145,000 to be allocated to address resident concerns in respect of litter, overflowing bins, poor pavement conditions, and overgrown vegetation in residential streets and secondary shopping areas. At that point, I'll stop and hopefully have left enough for Councillor Cowell to second, and then we'll get the process going then. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cowell to second.
Yeah, happy to second and reserve my right. I could reverse it, but I'll reserve it.
Right, thank you. So now open up to debate on the amendment. Councillor Law.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting the cross-party amendment this evening, but I do have concerns about the changes that have been made to the motion to allocate £87,000 to support the changes to adult social care transition. And let me explain, if I may, why this leaves me quite fearful, this change. So on our way into the chamber this evening, we came past a group of our residents from the Heart campaign protesting their genuine fears that we are under threat of losing vital hospital services to Exeter. Many of those same residents also fear for the future of social care in Torbay and the potential impact of the Trust serving notice on its social care agreement with Torbay Council. This arrangement, often held up as a national example of good practice, will now come to an end next March. It was always going to be a huge piece of work to unpick intertwined responsibilities that have evolved over more than a decade in such a short period of time, but I had confidence that our Director of Adult Services was very much on the ball. But then came the announcement by government that by March 2028, Torbay Council will no longer exist and we will become part of a new, much larger authority with a population of around 220,000. This suddenly means that whilst unpicking the complex Section 75 agreement, adult services in Devon and Torbay will now also have to simultaneously unpick which residents will be part of the population of which new authority and what the future social care needs will be for some of our most vulnerable residents in Devon. We will need to ensure that we have the right residents and the right workforce all ready to go live in March 2028. And that is what I fear. I fear that without extra resources, this dual-track unpicking of such vital services provided under the Section 75 agreement, whilst at the same time having to reimagine and restructure adult social care for a new authority, I'm worried, I have fears that this will create a negative impact on not only the capacity, but also the well-being of a workforce that is having to deliver all this change and transformation in such a short, intensive period of time, as well as delivering their everyday responsibilities. I fear, without adequate resources, that we will be putting our officers under an enormous strain, which was why I really wanted to see that £87,000 go to that reserve. So these are my fears, and I'd urge members to support the amendments as is. I just wanted to express my disappointment at the changes that have been made. Our adult social care has a monumental task before them, and I think they have all of our support in achieving that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Darling. He was before you. Steve Darling.
It is perhaps one of the biggest regrets that I have as a local councillor that something that happened throughout 2 decades has come to an end. The Integrated Care Organisation under this watch of this Conservative-led council, and it is nothing short of corporate vandalism that this occurred under this watch. I have grave concerns about the impact that this is having on our most vulnerable residents, and we all accept as councillors, and it's quite right so, that local residents deserve to have clean, well-maintained streets that have a significant enhancement to our area. But equally, a core principle of liberalism for me is making sure that we support those who are most vulnerable in our society as well as growing our economy. And, Madam Mayor, I would like to share with the Chamber a couple of cases that have come across my desk. There's a gentleman who has for more than 6 months being trapped in residential accommodation, costing the taxpayers of Torbay £1,550 a week, that is not undergoing assessment from social care, because according to adult social care, he is not critical enough for that assessment to take place. I'm sure this second case that has been raised with Hayley Tranter a few weeks ago will ring bells. This is a gentleman who has significant mobility issues, has 30 steps to go up to and down from his home, and he is trapped in his home because he is not seen as a critical case by social workers, and therefore he's unable to get the letters of support that would elevate his banding and the chance of him being able to live a normal life and being able to leave his own home. I would really welcome some words of reassurance from, whether it is, well, mostly Councillor Tranter, as she holds this portfolio, as to their confidence about getting a grip on this situation, because I understand that Torbay, or rather the ICO, is failing to recruit social workers, and this is causing a crisis within the system where it is only critical cases that can be undertaken, and that is not the world that our most vulnerable people in Torbay deserve to dwell in. So generally I welcome this amendment, but what assurances can we have that this corner will be turned and this local authority will show a level of compassion and support to the most vulnerable in Torbay? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, can I just remind members that we are debating on the amendment that is before you? Thank you.
Councillor Long.
Thank you, and I think my previous two colleagues were just seeking assurances about the change and the removal of the adult social care element. That was all that was happening. And I think I was half expecting to be asked as the seconder of the previous motion whether I agreed or not, but if that does need to happen, then I do agree, but I'll just put that on the record. And can I also say, after the last item, I think there are a couple of colleagues on this side who would appreciate if people's volumes could be just checked before. There are a couple of people on this side who suffered a bit under the last item. I just wanted to say that on this side, we welcome the road to Damascus conversion to the points of views expressed by the Liberal Democrats at the budget meeting in February this year. We were told that much of what we raised at the budget meeting the administration were doing already, and I'm pleased that we're now proved to be right to have raised that back in February. And indeed, I remember distinctly at the February meeting, or the budget meeting, the member for Colleton St Mary's saying that the Operation Brighter Bay had changed things since 2004 because the bay had deteriorated to such a bad level under the previous administration, and that a change had happened in the 2 to 3 years since this administration came in. As people will have seen maybe on social media, that I've been to Out and About on Barton with Watcombe today, and I can't actually see any difference in terms of overgrown bushes and weeds and street signs being in an absolutely disgraceful state. So I'm glad that we raised these things in February, and that the issues we raised have now been recognised by the work that's happening today. My only slight disappointment is that there wasn't any reference, despite it being raised, for some of this money going towards cleaning of street signs, as this is desperately needed, despite assurances during the budget process that efficiencies through Brighter Bay would result in this happening. And I've certainly discovered in the Lichfield area of Watcombe that it certainly hasn't been. But I'm pleased to see that the administration have come round to our view, and I look forward to this motion passing cross-party. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tarman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd just like to pick up one point and maybe give some semblance of comfort to Councillor Law regarding the 87,000 not being included. And I appreciate that to some degree that isn't the amended a motion, but as it was referred to, I think it needs to be dealt with. And I would just like to remind members that they did in the budget for this last year when agreed, 700,000 was put in there to help with transformation on the adult social care. Whilst an extra 87,000, of course, would have been better, we would have had 787, not 700. I wouldn't like anybody to walk away thinking that there is nothing there and that 87,000 is been taken away, leaving nothing. 700,000 was agreed by this council in the budget. That still is there to support what goes on, what needs to happen. I think there is a real risk that 700,000 will be nothing like enough, right? We will need to find more money in future, and I think the transformation process is not going to be a short term, it's going to be over a long period of time. There are, of course, other funds within council reserves, such as what was been designated as the Comprehensive Spending Review Reserve, which can be, so long as it's shown to be appropriate, allocated or to that task. We are fully aware of the situation. It is not going to be forgotten. We'll make sure we do what we can to address what I think we all, both sides of the chamber, think is a really retrograde step in the removal of the support services through the ICO. And yet at the same time, I think we need to recognise that there were elements of what was being provided within that arrangement that were not working well. And actually, it gives us the opportunity, with a lot of work, to try and end up with something that works better. It's not what we would have chosen to do, but like many things, you have to make the best of the cards you're dealt. And I think that, and I have confidence that whatever is the administration in the next 2 years, we know who it is, but the administration afterwards, whoever that is, will continue to provide the services that our adults need and deserve in Torbay.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just thought I'd say a few words, given my name was raised and Colleton St Mary in Operation Brighter Bay, and since this all relates to Operation Brighter Bay.
Sorry, Councillor Brooke, can I just confirm, are you seeking a point of personal explanation or a point of order in that regard, or are you making a representation on the actual amendment itself?
I am indeed.
Which one is it?
The latter. So I'm talking about
So on the amendment itself. Yeah. Thank you.
So Operation Brighter Bay was a rollout of a 4-year strategy, not a 1 year. So year 1 was the work on line marking. Year 2 was, and year 1 and 2 was working on grass verges and tidying up, with then an introduction for weeding, also an enhancement of potholes. So therefore, in Colleton St Mary, which I'm very pleased to say I drove around today, we have grass verges being cut, we've had potholes repaired, we've had line marking done, we've had road surfaces done, and also I drove around and we had no litter, because I actually raised a question of litter within my area and we got a new bin. And the same thing happened in Barton, because I drove all the way around Barton. I went from Barton, Watcombe, down through the town, Babbacombe, Wellswood, etc. And I actually say that I found the area phenomenally clean. And I wanted to therefore pay tribute to the excellent work Swissco does, and also the excellent work volunteers do, because I do know volunteers go out and do litter picking. Because there seems to be, to me, a complete step change. I literally, in Watcombe, I saw just one Coke can and one plastic bottle of litter. That was it. That was it. Wellswood had one Coke can. Councillor Bye, you missed that one. Babbacombe was completely clean. Redden Hill was completely clean. I have no objection, no, to the amendment, because there are certain areas with the signs and with the vegetation which we need
Can you
to
just
work
wait a minute, Councillor Brooke? Can I just ask that members try not to talk amongst themselves so we can hear what's being said? Thank you.
So I have no objection to this amendment because there is some money needs to be done on the graffiti. I think there is some money extra can be done for dealing with the vegetation, but we are doing a complete and utter step change, and it's obvious if you drive around, you can see that. It's so clear, and I'm proud of our area. I've been up to Birmingham the last weekend, and local areas and outside of Torbay. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, our place is looking fantastic. Hoteliers, restaurateurs, the tourism industry, it's over the moon how the bay is looking at the moment. So credit where credit's due for Swissco, credit where credit's due for officers, credit where credit's due for volunteers, but there's a bit more money could be spent on certain areas, so I've got no problem with that. But don't knock Operation Briar Bay because it has been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Point of factual accuracy, please, Madam Mayor.
No. Okay, Councillor Long, go ahead.
Thank you. It's just to say that I didn't knock Brighter Bay, but secondly, I went to, following a report to Councillor Darling in his MP capacity to his office about litter in Litchfield Avenue, and I have pictures that I can show Councillor Brooke of the Litchfield Avenue area where there is indescribable amounts of litter. So it doesn't tally. So please, it's not knocking, it's just providing an accurate image of what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor George Darling, is that a...
It was in debate, if that's all right, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, it's Councillor Billings next. Thank you.
I'll try and assist you, Madam Mayor, in moving the meeting on, so I'll be very brief. I think one of the speakers on the opposite side of the chamber earlier indicated that the administration, this is certainly how I heard their comment, was responsible for the ending of the integrated care organisation. I just wanted to, for absolute clarity, explain that that was the decision of the Torbay and South Devon NHS Foundation Trust. It had nothing whatsoever to do with the council or indeed the administration. If members opposite wish to challenge that as a point of factual accuracy, they're invited to do so, because now's your chance. In relation to this extra funding through this cross-party motion, I'd entirely support the cross-party collaborative basis has been prepared, and as it's all going into enhancing the delivery of Brighter Bay, I hope next time, Councillor Long, we've got to the litter before you have. Well done. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor George Darling.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just looking for some clarification because obviously being a Conservative amendment, and it's obviously saying here that the changes in respect of litter and overflowing bins, considering that Councillor Brooks essentially said that isn't a problem, could the Conservative member who has been saying that and has been encouraging us to spend this money on it please present themselves?
Points of factual accuracy, please.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair, can I
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Thomas.
Councillor Darling.
Can I just come in? Sorry. This point of factual accuracy, it's a point of personal explanation or a point of order where there is a significant factual inaccuracy or a point of law that's been breached for the point of order. Personal explanation is when it's about you personally. Just to clarify that for all members, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Just for clarity, this is not a Conservative amendment. This is a cross-party amendment that we've been working together on. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for that clarification. And if we've got no further hands, I believe we go back to Councillor Cowell, who has reserved his right to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I must say, in actual fact, that the stimulus that has been for this debate tonight was the fact that the original motion came forward. And I think it is a positive thing. And it's a shame that we couldn't have done this on the other motion in terms of actually worked before we came into this chamber to seek how we could actually change things to be able to get motions over the line. This is a really good positive example of being able to do that. One of the major concerns that I hear from residents, and I'm sure many of us do, is that Operation Operation not Brighter By, but Brighter Bay, is all about that final mile and our coastal areas and our towns and our tourist areas. Understandably so. I mean, that's why we had the ambition for a premier resort, and we found funding in our 4 years to be able to start that process. This is about actually doing it within our communities and delivering more for our communities. When I walk past the Shippy Co-op, for example, normally taking the dogs for a walk, that's a euphemism, by the way, the amount of litter that I see on my walk from my home up through Wallace Avenue or along Colleton Road, down towards the Shippy Co-op, despite the fact that there's a bin there, there's always litter. So I genuinely believe that being able to do things like the street cleaning, street sign cleaning, something that we actually started under our administration, because it's a relatively cheap, quick win to actually show pride in place. So I think it's positive. And where a lot of people do think signs are dirty, and I learned, you know, during my time as deputy leader, that it's not. It's where they're delaminated and the actual nameplate is falling apart. Hence the reason to be able to replace them. And there's lots of them that need to be done. If we can start in Shippy and finish them off, that'd be really grateful. So picking up on some of the concerns about removing the 87,000, you know, we did discuss this as colleagues, but in the scheme of things, being able to do some real delivery within our community and residential areas to invest in those areas, especially if we're buying equipment to be able to do that, which will give us some sustainability moving forward. Bearing in mind, this is all one-off spending. This isn't based revenue funding moving forward, so it's a one-off opportunity. So if we can get some legacy out of it, then that's good. I do question whether that's capital or revenue, though, but I mean, I'm not going to split hairs on 17 grand. So, you know, clearly I'll be supporting the amendment, hence why I'm happy to second. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that. We now go to Councillor Dave Thomas to do the summing up.
I think there's been enough debate and quite happy to move to the vote now.
All right, thank you. Then we'll move to the vote. So all those in favour, please show your hands. So this is on the amendment. Thank you, and that is unanimous. So now do we vote on the original?
No, so that becomes a substantive motion now, so that's carried.
So that becomes a substantive motion which has been carried. Okay, so move on to next item, which is item number 10. And this is to move for the budget monitoring, revenue and capital Outturn, quarter 25-26. So please refer to page 379. And I believe this is Councillor Tarman to put the Cabinet's motion to the Council.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I intend to say relatively little about the report that's in front of you. It's been through scrutiny and questions there. It is a statement largely of fact of what the outturn was for last year. I think anyone who reads through the figures can see where there have been areas where the council has significantly overspent its budget, and they can see how that's been offset. We've ended up, and has just been discussed at length, with an underspend of £174,000. I would just point out that in a gross budget of over 300 million, or even a net budget of 100, whatever it is, million, this is that sort of underspend is an absolute pinprick, absolute, you know, minor aspect. We are working on a very thin margin in the council's accounts. Not much would need to move against us, and we know there is quite a lot over the next 2 years moving against us to dwarf an underspend of 174,000. But it's much better than many councils who would be perhaps looking at overspends. So, you know, thank goodness we're not in that position. So the motion to the council, reflecting what's already been discussed this evening, now is as follows. That Cabinet recommends to council that the council notes the revenue outturn position, and that council approves the revisions to the capital investment plan as set out in Appendix 1 to the submitted report. And that it be noted that the decision on the allocation of the year-end surplus has already been determined in the previous item as follows. That the end of the year underspend of £174,000 be allocated as follows. 1. £17,000 for enhanced graffiti removal across the borough. 2. £12,000 for the replacement of damaged and missing road signs. And 3. £145,000 to be allocated to address resident concerns in respect of their litter, overflowing bins, poor pavement conditions and overgrown vegetation in residential streets and secondary shopping areas.
Thank you. And is there a seconder? Councillor Billings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Rise to second, and I reserve my right. Thank you.
So thank you. So I now invite debate, and Councillor Cowell, is it you to go first?
Yes,
as
it is,
the Shadow
Madam
Cabinet?
Mayor. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd forgotten. I don't really have any much further to add to Councillor Timon. We know just how fragile budgets are, but we are in a confident position currently here in Torbay. Clearly, the pressures coming through are in the future, not least because of the future government spending settlements, but the mounting pressures on children's services, adult social care, and of course the consequences of LGR. But in terms of the work that's been done, again, I would thank the officers who actually work so hard across our council to deliver the budgets on budget, despite the pressures that we have in high costs, particularly in children's services. But I'm happy to be supporting as amended. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So thank you. We open up now for debate. So is there anybody who wishes to speak? If not, it'll come down to Councillor Tarman to exercise. Sorry, it's Councillor Billings first. Sorry, Councillor Billings.
I think, Madam Mayor, given the fact this is a topic it looks like there's consensus on, I suggest we just move on.
Okay, Councillor to move on. So we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? And that is unanimous. So thank you very much. Move on now to item number 11, Treasury Management Outturn. The report is for noting and no vote is necessary. Move on to item number 12, in relation to overview and scrutiny and the call-in and urgency. The report is for noting and no vote is necessary. And can I thank members for attendance tonight today? And I now close the meeting. Thank you.